"Get off my porch," I said, holding the courthouse receipt like a pistol. She smiled and called it ours. I shoved the paper through the screen. "That's my name, not a suggestion." Her fake laugh broke. Behind her, the kids' helmets clattered proof she'd been squatting on my life. "Move," I said. "Now." She laughs. An ugly, fake, sweet sound that curdles the mountain air. "Oh, honey, we've been here over a year. Adverse possession laws. Look it up." Behind her, a skillet sizzles. My skillet. The smell of bacon from my kitchen twists my stomach. Two bikes lean against the porch rail, children's helmets dangling. A dog barks from inside as she leans against the doorframe, perfectly comfortable in a house she never paid for. I hold up the deed like a weapon. County auction, Woodland Park, paid in full. She glances at it once, then actually smirks. "Cute. You'll want to talk to my lawyer." The door slams. Latch clicks. Silence except for the wind scraping through the pines and the hammering in my chest. Miguel, my contractor, steps beside me, mouth open. "Boss, what just happened?" "I think someone stole my damn house," I say. The absurdity of it stings more than the mountain chill. I bang on the door again, harder this time. Footsteps. Then a new figure, a lanky 20-something with patchy facial hair and the kind of half-awake glare you only see in mugshots. "You got a problem, old man?" "Yeah," I say. "The one where you're standing in my doorway." He smirks, chewing something invisible. "Mom says call the sheriff." "Go ahead," I snap. "Call him." 20 minutes later, a patrol cruiser crunches up the gravel drive. The deputy, Rick Morrison, steps out with the gait of someone who's already picked a side. He gives the woman a hug before even looking at me. "Brenda," he says warmly, "what's going on?" She turns on the tears like flipping a switch. "He's threatening us, Rick. Says we have to leave our home. The kids are terrified." My jaw drops. "Your home?" "Officer, I bought this place at county auction 3 months ago. Here's the paperwork. Title, deed, everything." Rick barely glances. "Sir, even if that's true, Colorado law protects residents who've been living here. You can't just show up unannounced. They're squatters," I snap. "You're looking at felony trespass," he shrugs. "Civil matter. You'll need to go through the courts." Brenda starts full sob mode, shoulders shaking, voice trembling with perfect performance timing. "We've been here peacefully for over a year, and now this man's harassing us. I just want to keep my babies safe." Rick turns cold. "Sir, leave now. Any further contact will be considered harassment." The smell of wood smoke drifts from my chimney, my fireplace burning while I'm being ordered off my land. Rage sits heavy in my throat as I climb back into my truck. Miguel mutters, "This is insane." "Yeah," I say. And we're not done. As we wind down the dirt road, snow melt trickling beside the tires, my thoughts spin between disbelief and fury. 6 months ago, I had a good life. A house in Denver, steady contracts, a wife who said she loved me until she found enlightenment with a yoga instructor named Brad. The kind of guy who calls himself a healer while living off other people's credit cards. Divorce in Colorado means 50 over 50, even if she cheated. She got the house, the truck, half my business. I got an apartment that smelled like old cigarettes and regret. One night, scrolling county auction listings between beers, I saw it. Foreclosed mountain cabin, 2 acres, starting bid $8,000. The photos showed peeling paint, a deck half collapsed under snow, windows taped with plastic. To anyone else, it looked like a wreck. To me, it looked like a heartbeat. A place I could rebuild piece by piece, same way I'd rebuild myself. At the auction, I was the only bidder. 12 grand later, I owned it. The previous owner, Harold Brennan, 73, widower, unpaid taxes, no next of kin. The county had cleared every lien. It was a clean slate. I framed the deed that night, hung it over my kitchen sink like a trophy. Now that trophy might as well be toilet paper. Back in Denver, I spend half the night rereading property statutes. Adverse possession, 18 continuous years of occupancy with color of title. Brenda's 1-year claim is laughable, but the more I dig, the more I see how people like her twist the system. Fake leases, false mail forwarding, friendly sheriffs. By morning, I'm done feeling sorry for myself. I call every number on the county site, assessor, recorder, code enforcement, all confirm I'm the owner. But ownership means nothing if someone else holds the keys. I drive back up the mountain at noon with Miguel riding shotgun and a GoPro on the dash. "You sure about this?" he asks. "No," I say, "but I'm not letting scammers live rent-free in my house." As the truck climbs the final switchback, I spot the cabin again. Sunlight flashes off new window panes. Someone repainted. The siding a cheerful sage green. Flower boxes under the windows. A family picnic table by the porch. It looks lived in because it is. I park beside a minivan. Brenda's voice floats through the open window. Laughter. Kids arguing. The domestic soundtrack of a life she stole. I step out, gravel crunching beneath my boots, heart hammering so loud it drowns the birds. Before I reach the steps, the door flies open again. "Didn't you learn yesterday?" she says. "Yesterday I was polite. I pull out my phone. Today I'm recording." "Go ahead," she sneers. "Make yourself internet famous." "Already working on it," I mutter. She starts filming too, of course she does. 2 smartphones aimed like pistols. "Ma'am, you're committing criminal trespass," I announce. "I'm giving you formal notice to vacate the property within 72 hours. "Oh, bless your heart," she mocks. "We've got tenant rights, darling. You'll need a court order." "Then I'll get one." "Good luck. See you on Channel 9. She slams the door again. The next morning, I wake to find out what she meant. My phone explodes with notifications. Local contractor terrorizes single mother. Headlines scream. A shaky cell phone video. Brenda shows me holding a paper, my voice raised. In the caption, "Rich developer threatens to evict family of 3 from longtime home." Comments pour in. Disgusting. "Hope someone burns his truck." By noon, she's raised $6,000 on GoFundMe. For the first time since the divorce, I feel genuine fear, not of Brenda, but of how easily truth can be rewritten. I scroll through her posts, photos of her daughter, Madison, posing with their dog on my deck, captions about community, resilience, kindness. Each lie gets hundreds of hearts. That night, I stare at the ceiling of my one-room apartment, smoke from the neighbor's cigarettes seeping through the vent, and think, how do you fight someone who steals not just your property, but your narrative? Answer: you hit back harder. Next morning, I start digging. County databases, social media, old news articles. Within hours, a pattern forms. Brenda Hutchkins, 52, history of small claims suits and unpaid contractors. 3 previous addresses. 3 previous victim stories. Jefferson County, 2018, claimed squatters' rights after boyfriend died. Boulder, 2020, accused landlord of harassment, settled for undisclosed amount. Larimer, 2021, GoFundMe for unfair eviction. Same playbook every time. At noon, I meet Miguel at a diner off Highway 24. Grease on the windows, coffee strong enough to strip paint. "You look like hell," he says. "Feel worse. So what's the plan?" I find proof she's lying, then I bury her with it. By evening, I've confirmed 3 things. Brenda's utilities were turned on only 8 months ago. She owes nearly everyone in town money. The Cabin of Compassion she advertises online is actually an illegal Airbnb, booked solid through summer. She's made thousands off my property while painting me as the villain. The next day, I return to the cabin armed with my new favorite weapon information. This time, I don't knock. I stand on the road filming her yard. The fresh paint, the cars, the Airbnb sign half hidden behind a pine. Brenda storms out, phone raised. "You again!" Smile for the camera, I say. "You're running a business on stolen property. That's felony fraud." Her face twitches. "You can't prove." "Already did." I wave the printed county utility records. 8 months of service, Brenda, not 18 years. Adverse possession? Nice try. For a split second, the mask slips. Then she smirks again. Hope you like lawsuits, Jake. She knows my name now. That chills me more than the mountain wind. That night I checked my email. Hundreds of messages, half hate, half threats. Someone posted my address. My phone rings. It's an unknown number. A woman's voice. You don't know who you're dealing with. Click. I pace the apartment, adrenaline humming, then stop cold when I see something on my laptop screen. A booking confirmation. Mountain Getaway Retreat, Woodland Park, CO. The listing shows photos of my cabin interior furniture, walls, even the handmade sign I'd left in the kitchen when I first visited. She's renting it for $150 a night. That's when pity turns to fury. This isn't a misunderstanding. It's a theft machine. She's not just squatting, she's monetizing my life. I grab a pen and start a list. IRS Fraud Hotline, Colorado. Depth of Revenue Local News Tips, Private Investigator. Each name gets circled in red. I don't sleep that night. I don't even blink. When dawn finally seeps through the blinds, I whisper to myself, "You wanted a project, Jake. You got one." Outside, Denver's morning traffic hums, but all I can hear is the memory of Brenda's smug voice. Good luck with that eviction. She has no idea luck's got nothing to do with what's coming. 3 days later, my phone lit up like a Christmas tree. Unknown numbers, angry texts. Hope you're proud, you monster. Rich guys like you ruin everything. I turned on the TV, and there she was. Brenda Hutchkins, standing on my porch, haloed by morning light and lies. The headline crawled across the bottom of the screen. Single mother faces eviction from family home. Madison, her teenage daughter, clutched a handmade sign that read, "Don't let them make us homeless." The reporter's tone dripped sympathy while Brenda dabbed her eyes with a tissue that probably cost more than my truck payment. "We cared for Harold Brennan when no one else would," she said. "Now a corporate investor wants to throw us onto the street." The clip ended with her son Tyler hammering something on the porch like he suddenly discovered manual labor. I wanted to throw the remote, but I forced myself to breathe. Rage without strategy is just self-destruction, and Brenda thrived on chaos. I called Miguel. "Don't react," he said. "Let's gather proof." He was right. I needed brains, not bronze. That's when I found Rosemary Rhee, former corporate fraud lawyer turned mountain hermit. Her Yelp reviews mentioned miracles performed with coffee and case law. When she opened her door, the scent of jasmine tea filled the air, calm and sharp at once. "You're Jake," she said, already scanning my stack of documents. "I saw the news. That woman's good. Too good." We sat at her oak table while she flipped through deeds, tax records, and Brenda's GoFundMe page. Classic emotional manipulation, Rosemary muttered. "But..." She left fingerprints. They always do. For the next hour, she built a strategy like a surgeon mapping arteries. "First, we document every false claim," she said. "Second, we track her income streams, GoFundMe, Airbnb, whatever she's hiding. Third, we make the system work for us." I hadn't felt this focused in months. "How do we prove she's lying?" Rosemary smiled. "Jake, scammers crave attention. Give her rope and she'll hang herself." That night, we combed through public records until our eyes burned. Brenda's name popped up everywhere. 3 counties, half a dozen complaints, unpaid bills, small claim settlements. She was a professional victim with a resume of pity. The breakthrough came at Murphy's Hardware. Frank, the owner, recognized her name instantly. "That woman owes me $300, he growled, wiping grease off his hands. Said insurance would cover it. Never paid. He showed me receipts, sage green paint, lumber, garden gnomes, all charged to a non-existent account. The same paint now gleamed on my cabin walls. Brenda had rebuilt her image using my materials and other people's trust. Next stop was Mountain View Restaurant, where Lisa Rodriguez told a story that made my stomach twist. She came in every week, Lisa said. Claimed her mom was dying, begged for free meals. We helped for months. Then I saw her buying steaks at Walmart. When confronted, Brenda accused Lisa of discriminating against single mothers. Each conversation added weight to my anger, but also evidence to my growing arsenal. I documented everything: recordings, receipts, screenshots. Still, Brenda was always one step ahead, spinning new stories faster than I could debunk them. That night, my bank called. "Mr. Morrison, there's a fraud claim against your account. Someone alleged I'd written bad checks on property I didn't own. Brenda was now attacking my finances, freezing my funds while painting me as unstable. Rosemary's calm voice over the phone was the only thing keeping me from driving up the mountain with a baseball bat. "She's escalating," Rosemary said. "That means she's scared. Keep documenting." Around midnight, surrounded by legal pads and empty coffee cups, I found the crack in Brenda's fortress. Her so-called homestead exemption, a tax break for primary residences, was filed 8 months ago, yet public utilities for her real home, a double-wide trailer 40 miles away, were still active. Dual residency. Felony tax fraud. The discovery sent a jolt of satisfaction through my veins. "Got you," I whispered to the glow of my laptop. The next morning I made 3 calls: the IRS fraud hotline, the Colorado Department of Revenue, and Channel 9 News. When the same reporter from Brenda's sob story answered, I introduced myself. "You remember the evil landlord from yesterday?" I asked. "I have documents proving your hero is committing federal crimes. By noon, Karma finally clocked in for work." Channel 9 updated their story with a single line: "GoFundMe campaign temporarily suspended, pending investigation." A black SUV from the Department of Revenue rolled up Brenda's gravel driveway that afternoon. I imagined her watching from behind the curtains, that perfect mask cracking just a little. The sweet mountain air smelled like justice for the first time. Miguel called from a job site, laughing. "Boss, you really lit a fire under her." "Not yet," I said. "That comes next." 2 weeks later, she retaliated. I was in the middle of reviewing bids for roof repair when Miguel's number flashed again. "Get up here. Bring a camera." His tone froze my blood. The drive up felt endless. When I arrived, my cabin looked like it had been through a war. Every window shattered, the front door hanging by one hinge. Tyler sat on the porch drinking beer, grinning like a feral dog. "Had some structural issues," he said. "We fixed them. Inside, chaos. Holes punched through drywall, cabinets ripped out, pipes leaking." Brenda appeared in spotless activewear, phone recording. "This man let the property deteriorate. We were forced to make emergency repairs." The audacity was breathtaking. I walked through puddles of my own ruined floor, pretending calm while my hidden security cameras captured every angle. "You familiar with Colorado Statute 184501? I asked. Her fake confidence faltered. "What? Criminal mischief. Over $2,000 in damage equals felony." I showed her live footage from my phone, Tyler swinging a sledgehammer, laughing. Brenda's face drained of color. Tyler muttered, "You can't prove anything." "Buddy," I said, "I've got 12 hours of proof." That evening, I sat at my apartment table surrounded by evidence and anger. Then, by accident, I found something bigger. Reviewing footage frame by frame, I noticed Tyler smashing through a section of wall that looked oddly thicker than the rest. Behind the plaster, a cavity. Later, when I inspected the site, I found what he'd exposed: a stack of old documents wrapped in plastic. Medical files, bank statements, legal forms, all in the name of Harold Brennan, the previous owner. I spread the papers across my table. Each page was another nail in Brenda's coffin. Power of attorney forms signed in shaky handwriting, Social Security deposits rerouted to new accounts, insurance beneficiary changes listing Brenda Hutchkins. One document froze my breath entirely, a life insurance policy for $40,000, naming Brenda as the sole beneficiary. The signature looked forged. The dates lined up perfectly with Harold's sudden illness. I called Rosemary immediately. "You're not dealing with a squatter anymore," she said, voice low and sharp. "You're looking at elder abuse and maybe murder." The next morning, I found my truck vandalized. Predator sprayed in neon orange across the side. A note under the wiper: "Final warning." The chemical smell burned my nostrils, but I didn't flinch. Fear had burned out, replaced by something colder. I drove straight to the FBI field office in Denver. When a woman in a dark suit introduced herself as Special Agent Martinez, I handed over the box of Harold's documents. "If what you're saying is true," she said, scanning the pages, "this isn't civil, it's federal." For 3 hours, she listened while I described every lie, every threat, every forged paper. "Mr. Morrison," she concluded, "you've just opened a potential homicide investigation." The words hit harder than any punch. Harold hadn't just been scammed, he'd been killed for profit. Brenda's cozy mountain life was built on a corpse. That night, I sat alone in my apartment, staring at the vandalized truck outside. The orange paint glowed under streetlights like a warning flare. My phone buzzed, a blocked number. "You should have stayed quiet," a distorted voice whispered. Click. I hit record on the voicemail and sent it straight to Martinez. When dawn crept through the blinds, exhaustion hit me like a freight train. My life had turned into a crime novel I couldn't put down. Somewhere in that mountain house, an old man had died so Brenda could live like a queen, and I'd been the fool who stumbled into her kingdom, but not anymore. Now I had allies, evidence, and law on my side. 3 days later, the FBI called again. "Jake, we need to meet," Martinez said. "Bring everything you have on Brenda Hutchkins." Her tone carried the kind of gravity that changes lives. I knew, deep in my bones, the hunt had just entered its most dangerous phase. The urgency in Agent Martinez's voice sliced through my exhaustion. "We need to meet now," she said. "Truck stop outside Colorado Springs. Bring everything." I barely remembered the drive. The sun hadn't even cleared the peaks when I pulled into the parking lot, fluorescent lights buzzing, diesel fumes hanging heavy, the whole place smelling like burnt coffee and road salt. Martinez sat in a corner booth, eyes sharp, a folder the color of old blood spread open between us. She didn't waste words. "Jake, Harold Brennan wasn't her only victim." Those words froze me. "What do you mean?" She pushed the folder forward. Inside, photographs. 4 elderly men, all dead. All with eerily similar histories. Isolated, widowed, financially stable, and suddenly connected to one woman, Brenda Hutchkins. "She's a serial predator," Martinez said quietly. "A financial killer. We have evidence of at least 4 suspicious deaths, all connected by her name." I flipped through the photos. The first one was Harold smiling, fishing pole in hand, vibrant and alive. The next was a man named Walter Briggs from Boulder County. The third, Samuel Nunez in Jefferson County. The last, Thomas Dyer, Larimer County. Each story the same. Healthy, independent, then rapidly declining under Brenda's care. "She poisons them slowly," Martinez explained. "We suspect antifreeze, hard to detect, mimics the symptoms of aging. A nausea deeper than fear gripped me. She killed them for their houses? For their insurance," Martinez corrected. "She ingratiates herself, gets power of attorney, changes the beneficiary, and waits. Sometimes months, sometimes years. You buying Harold's cabin threatened her entire system." The realization hit like a gut punch. I hadn't just stumbled into a scam. I'd kicked open the door to a killer's hideout. Martinez leaned back, eyes never leaving mine. "There's more. Harold had a nephew, Fletcher Brennan, in Florida. He's been investigating her for 2 years. He's flying in tonight." The next morning, Fletcher arrived. Thin, wiry, gray-stubbled, the kind of man who'd spent years turning grief into obsession. His handshake was firm but trembling. "She murdered my uncle," he said simply. "And she's going to pay." We set up in my apartment, now turned makeshift FBI outpost. Boxes of files filled every surface, financial records, medical reports, photos, forged signatures. The air smelled like burnt coffee and cold revenge. Fletcher laid out his evidence, time-stamped photos, phone logs, witness statements. He'd tracked Brenda's movements through 3 states. "She used the same playbook every time," he said, pacing. "Charm, dependency, isolation, then death." Martinez spread crime scene photos across the table like tarot cards, foretelling damnation. Each death ruled natural causes, but every autopsy shows traces of ethylene glycol antifreeze. I swallowed hard. She's been doing this for years. She's a professional, Fletcher said bitterly. A sociopath who learned to weaponize sympathy. My uncle wasn't the first. You were just the first to fight back. We worked for hours, mapping the timeline, marking connections on a corkboard Martinez had brought. Strings stretched between counties like veins in a diseased body. The deeper we dug, the clearer it became. Brenda's crimes weren't random. They were ritual. Each man lived within a 100-mile radius. Each had a cabin or property easy to isolate. Each had insurance policies changed months before death. When the sun dipped below the Rockies, the room looked like the war room of a manhunt. Martinez's phone buzzed. "It's the forensic team," she said. Preliminary handwriting analysis confirms it. Brenda forged Harold's signatures, power of attorney, insurance forms, even the will. Classic manipulation of the elderly. Fletcher's voice cracked. He trusted her. He thought she was helping. She helped herself, Martinez said coldly, and she's about to lose everything. That night, over stale takeout and lukewarm coffee, Fletcher showed me one last photo, a candid shot of Harold a few weeks before he died. He was skeletal, eyes hollow, smile forced. "That's not the man I knew," Fletcher whispered. She drained him, body and soul. The next morning, the plan was set. 3 parallel investigations, the FBI on homicide and mail fraud, the IRS on tax evasion, and the insurance company reopening Harold's claim for fraud. Martinez wanted Brenda cornered on every front. "She can't fight all of us," Martinez said. "Even if she beats one charge, the others will bury her." Fletcher nodded. "She won't just go quietly. She'll lash out." He was right. That same afternoon, Brenda went on the offensive. My phone exploded again, hundreds of messages, fake profiles flooding social media. "Jake Morrison is a racist landlord. He destroys families." Photoshopped images of me holding eviction notices over crying children spread like wildfire. My business email filled with threats. My contractor's license came under review after anonymous complaints. Then, she made it personal. She dragged Lisa, my ex-wife, into the storm. Brenda commented on her Instagram posts, calling me an abuser, claiming I'd left my family homeless. Lisa called me, voice trembling. "Jake, who is this woman? She's saying insane things about you." "She's dangerous," I said. "Don't engage, just block her." But Brenda wasn't just trying to ruin my name. She wanted me to break. She wanted the angry, reckless Jake who'd show up at her doorstep and make a mistake that would hand her everything. I refused to give her that satisfaction. 2 days later, Tyler showed up instead. I was leaving for a job site when I saw him leaning against my truck, cigarette dangling, wearing that same smug grin. "Mom says you should take the deal," he said. "What deal?" "Half of Harold's insurance payout. You drop the eviction, we split it. Everyone wins." I stared at him, realization crawling up my spine. "You're admitting there is an insurance payout?" He smirked. "Don't play dumb, man. You know what this is about." I hit record on my phone. "Keep talking. She's got connections," he said. "You mess with her. People get hurt. Is that a threat?" "Just advice." He flicked the cigarette onto my windshield and walked away. That night, all 4 tires on my truck were slashed. The following morning, a brick smashed through my apartment window with a note tied to it. Final warning. But Brenda's empire was cracking. Madison, the teenage daughter, started showing up in the background of Brenda's videos less and less. Miguel told me he'd seen her crying behind the cabin one afternoon, phone pressed to her ear, whispering, "I don't want to do this anymore." Even monsters eventually lose control of their pawns. And Brenda was unraveling fast. She filed a restraining order against me, claiming I was stalking her, complete with forged medical documents about PTSD and heart problems. Martinez called me laughing. She just handed us another fraud charge. But the best evidence came from Madison herself. She reached out through an anonymous text. "I need to talk. I know what my mom did. When we met, her hand shook so badly she could barely hold her soda. She poisoned Harold, Madison whispered. She said he was better off dead. Said she was giving him peace. Tears streamed down her cheeks. I didn't believe her until now. Martinez listened, calm and focused, as Madison confessed everything. Brenda had bragged about manipulating men, falsifying documents, and even joked about retirement after the next payout. Madison agreed to wear a wire. By then, Brenda was surrounded financial crimes, witness testimony, and a mountain of physical evidence. But she still had one card left: violence. Tyler's text grew darker, more desperate. She says you ruined her life. She says you're next. Then came the final escalation. Brenda contacted a biker gang, the Iron Wolves, to handle her landlord problem. The FBI intercepted the calls. Martinez called me that night. Jake, we're moving in. The meeting at the town hall tomorrow, don't miss it. We're ending this. I didn't sleep. Every creak in the building sounded like footsteps. Every shadow outside my window felt like a threat, but beneath the fear was a strange calm. After months of chaos, the end was near. The next day, Martinez briefed me at dawn. We're going to let her speak, let her spin her lies, and then we'll destroy them one by one in front of everyone. The mountain air that morning felt electric, like the world itself was holding its breath. Brenda Hutchkins had built her life on deception, pity, and death. But tonight, she would stand in front of a town she'd fooled and watch her empire crumble. The night before the town hall felt like waiting for a storm you can hear coming miles away. The air in my apartment was thick with tension, the kind that settles in your lungs and refuses to leave. I'd spent hours on the phone with Agent Martinez, reviewing every piece of evidence one last time. The wire recordings, the bank records, the photos, Madison's confession. Everything was airtight. Still, sleep refused to come. I kept picturing Brenda's smirk, that same mask she'd worn the day she told me to look up the law. Tomorrow, she'd face a law even she couldn't twist. By morning, the mountain air had that biting edge of early spring, crisp, cold, full of electricity. My truck still wore scars from her spray-painted threats, but I left them there on purpose. They were my armor now. At 8 a.m., Martinez called. Jake, we've confirmed it. Brenda made contact with the Iron Wolves again last night. They were planning to torch the cabin after the meeting, make it look like insurance fraud. Jesus. Don't worry, she said. We picked them up before sunrise. She doesn't know yet. Tonight, we end this. Around noon, Tyler showed up at my apartment again, this time with Madison. He looked different. Not angry, not cocky, just scared. His hands shook as he lit a cigarette. Mom's gone nuts, he muttered. She says if the cabin burns down, all the problems go away. She even talked about making sure you don't make it to the meeting. Madison's eyes were red and swollen. She hired people, Jake. She wanted them to kill you. I tried to stop her. Her voice cracked. She said you were evil, that killing you was justice. Martinez, listening in from the hallway, stepped forward. You did the right thing, both of you, she said softly. But now you have to help us stop her. Will you testify? Tyler nodded. Madison whispered, I'll wear the wire. That night, we waited. My apartment had become a surveillance nest. Laptops open, radios crackling, agents moving like ghosts. Martinez sat across from me, calm as stone. Tomorrow, she'll come to that meeting in full performance mode, she said. Let her talk. When she thinks she's got the room, we'll take it all away. Outside, thunder rolled across the mountains. I remember thinking how fitting it was, the calm before the moral storm. Morning arrived heavy and gray. I barely touched my coffee. Around noon, Martinez briefed the team one last time. We've got enough to arrest her 10 times over, she said, but I want her confession, public, recorded, live. At 5 p.m., the community center parking lot overflowed. Cars lined the street for a block. Reporters set up tripods under gray skies, their breath puffing in the cold air. Inside, fluorescent lights hummed, and folding chairs creaked as hundreds of locals packed the hall. The smell of burnt coffee and nervous anticipation filled the space. People murmured, curious, divided, half convinced Brenda was a saint, half ready to see her exposed. At exactly 7:15, she arrived, wheeled in by Tyler, arm in a sling, neck brace tight, a transparent oxygen tank trailing behind her like a prop from a bad soap opera. Madison followed, eyes downcast, playing her role. Brenda looked fragile, holy, tragic. The crowd gasped. Someone actually applauded. She smiled through fake pain, a master actress making her entrance. The mayor adjusted the microphone. "Thank you all for coming. Mrs. Hutchkins has requested to speak first." Brenda's voice came soft, trembling, the perfect pitch of victimhood. "My children and I have called Harold Brennan's cabin our home for over a year," she began. "We cared for Harold until his final breath. We kept his home alive. And then this man," she pointed toward me, "showed up with a piece of paper and tried to destroy everything we built." Gasps rippled through the room. "He's threatened us, harassed us, ruined our peace. We just want to live." Her eyes glistened, her timing flawless. If I hadn't seen behind the mask, even I might have believed her. The mayor nodded. "Thank you, Mrs. Hutchkins. Mr. Morrison, you may respond." I stood. My knees felt like stone, but my voice came steady. "Mrs. Hutchkins," I said, "how exactly did you meet Harold Brennan?" She blinked, thrown by the question. "He was a friend of the family." "A friend? Or a target?" I asked. She forced a laugh. "That's ridiculous. Was it also ridiculous when you forged his power of attorney?" I pulled a folder from my jacket, Martinez's idea. "Because I've got documents here showing your signature on every one of his accounts." A murmur spread through the crowd. Cameras whirred. "You have no proof," she snapped, voice cracking. "I've got more than proof," I said. "I've got witnesses." Martinez stood from the second row, badge flashing under the fluorescent lights. "Special Agent Sarah Martinez, FBI. Mrs. Hutchkins, you're under federal investigation for fraud, tax evasion." Brenda's face twisted. "You can't do this. They're lying." "And the murder of Harold Brennan," Martinez finished. The room exploded. Gasps, shouts, reporters shouting questions. Brenda's mask shattered. She lurched out of her wheelchair, perfectly steady on both legs. "You have no idea who you're dealing with," she screamed. "That old fool deserved it. He was wasting his money, and I made better use of it. You could have heard a pin drop. Even the camera crews froze." She realized too late what she'd just admitted on live television. From the back, a quiet voice cut through the chaos. "My name is Fletcher Brennan," it said. Fletcher stepped forward, eyes glistening but fierce. "Harold was my uncle, and this woman murdered him." Brenda's defiance wavered. "He was sick. He was healthy," Fletcher roared, voice cracking with grief. "Until you poisoned him." Madison broke, then. "She did it," she cried. "She told me how. She said the antifreeze was untraceable." The entire hall turned to her, the daughter finally destroying her mother's empire. Brenda screamed, "You little traitor!" She lunged, but Martinez and 2 deputies were already on her. The clink of handcuffs echoed through the hall like justice itself, ringing out across the mountains. The crowd erupted, some cheering, some crying, others just staring in disbelief. Cameras flashed as Brenda's designer sweater slipped from her shoulder, revealing a woman stripped of all pretense. For the first time, she looked small. As they led her away, she turned to me, eyes blazing with hatred. "You think you won? This isn't over." I stepped closer, voice low enough for only her to hear. "It is for you." The moment felt endless, the kind that brands itself into your memory forever. When it was over, I walked outside into the cold night air. The stars looked sharper than they had in months. The crowd spilled into the parking lot, voices buzzing with disbelief and relief. Fletcher approached, tears streaking his face. "You did it," he said. "You gave Harold justice." "No," I said quietly. We did. Behind us, the flash of police lights washed the mountains in red and blue. Brenda was gone, not in spirit yet, but soon to be a name buried under life sentences and federal indictments. The nightmare that had begun with a door slammed in my face had ended with that same woman in handcuffs. But even as the relief washed over me, I knew something deeper had changed. It wasn't just about getting my property back anymore. It was about rebuilding something bigger, faith maybe, or the fragile belief that decency could still win. That night, as I drove home, the mountain roads felt different, quieter, lighter. For months, every curve had carried dread. Now it carried peace. The smell of pine and cold air filled the cab, sharp and cleansing. When I reached the overlook above the valley, I stopped and stepped out. The wind cut across my face, but it felt good, real. Somewhere down there, a monster was being booked and fingerprinted, and up here, I finally remembered how to breathe. Tomorrow, the fight would shift to the courtroom, but tonight, the mountain was mine again. 6 months later, the mountains finally felt like home again. The air was still sharp in the mornings, but now it carried the scent of cedar and new beginnings instead of fear. I sat on my rebuilt porch with a mug of black coffee, watching sunlight crawl over the peaks like forgiveness. The cabin looked nothing like the wreck Brenda had left behind. Fresh paint, solid beams, new windows catching the dawn. Every plank carried a story, every nail a second chance. The sentencing had been the closing chapter of a nightmare I'd lived too long. Judge Patricia Hawkins didn't mince words. Brenda Hutchins, you will spend the rest of your natural life in federal prison for 4 counts of first-degree murder and 40 years for fraud. Brenda tried her usual performance tears, trauma, childhood abuse, but this time, no one bought it. The jury had needed only 12 minutes to deliver guilty on all counts. Tyler, her son, got 8 years for property destruction and conspiracy. Madison testified with trembling honesty, helping put her mother away and earning her own freedom in the process. When Brenda heard the sentence, she looked right at me. For a second, that old fire sparked behind her eyes, like she still believed she could twist her way out. But when the bailiff led her away in cuffs, I saw it finally break the realization that her lies couldn't bend reality anymore. That was the moment I exhaled for the first time in months. The weeks after the trial were a blur of hammering, painting, and rebuilding both wood and spirit. What started as a solo project turned into a movement. The first weekend after Brenda's conviction, 60 volunteers showed up at my driveway. Neighbors, tradesmen, strangers who'd followed my story online. Some brought tools, others brought casseroles. The sound of saws mixed with laughter and country music. For the first time, this mountain didn't feel haunted. It felt alive. Frank from Murphy's Hardware donated materials. Lisa Rodriguez organized volunteer lunches. Even Deputy Rick, the same man who once threatened to arrest me, showed up with a toolbox and guilt written all over his face. I should have seen through her, he said, while helping me mount the new front door. She played all of us. Yeah, I said, sliding the hinge pin into place. But she won't play anyone again. By evening, we'd repaired most of the damage Tyler's sledgehammer had caused. When the last board went up, everyone just stood there for a moment, watching the sun drop behind the ridge. The mountain went quiet, the kind of silence that feels like a prayer. In the months that followed, the story spread far beyond Colorado. News outlets ran specials. Podcasters dissected the Mountain Widow Killer. One network producer even offered a documentary deal. I said yes, not for fame, but to make sure people learned how these scams worked. Every victim deserved their voice back. Miguel and I started a new company, Mountain Honest Contracting. Our motto was simple: honest work for honest people. We specialized in helping victims of fraud rebuild what was stolen from them. Within a year, we had more clients than we could handle, and every project reminded me that resilience could be contagious. Rosemary, the lawyer who'd saved my sanity, stayed close. What began as late-night case reviews turned into sunrise coffee on my porch, jasmine tea giving way to laughter. She had this way of seeing through my silence. "You realize you're famous now," she said one morning, eyes twinkling. "5 interviews this week and an email from Netflix." "Let them wait," I told her, watching the mist lift from the valley. "I've got better things to build." Fletcher moved to Colorado permanently, buying a small cabin just up the ridge. He'd spent 2 years chasing justice for his uncle. Now he spent his days fishing in peace. "Harold can finally rest," he said one morning, casting his line into the new memorial pond we'd built. "You gave him that." "No," I said. "He gave us the reason." The biggest change came from what we built together, the Harold Brennan Memorial Fund. Using recovered insurance money and donations from around the country, we launched the Mountain Elder Protection Initiative. It trained sheriffs, bankers, and hospital staff to recognize signs of elder abuse and financial exploitation. Within months, counties across Colorado adopted our model. What started as revenge had become reform, and Madison, she called last month from Texas, her voice strong, grounded. "Jake, I wanted to thank you," she said. "If you hadn't fought back, my mom would have kept killing people. I'm studying criminal justice now. I want to help families like ours." For the first time, her voice didn't carry guilt, only hope. Brenda's poison hadn't taken her future after all. Now, every morning when I step outside, the air feels cleaner. The world looks sharper. The cabin stands proud again, not as a monument to pain, but to perseverance. Where Brenda once saw opportunity for greed, I see community. On weekends, neighbors bring their kids up for barbecues. In winter, we hold storytelling nights around the rebuilt fireplace. That same hearth once burned with her lies. Now it burns with laughter. The local news calls me the man who turned grief into justice. I don't think of it that way. I think of myself as a contractor who got his project finished, just not the one he expected. The real construction wasn't this cabin. It was rebuilding faith in fairness, in people, in the idea that good can still win if you stand your ground long enough. Every scar on the walls, every plank I replaced, carries memory. The spray-painted word predator still faintly shows under the new coat of paint. I kept it there on purpose, like a ghost-turned guardian, a reminder of what was destroyed and what rose in its place. Sometimes at night, when the wind shifts through the pines, I swear I can smell Harold's old pipe tobacco, that faint, sweet smoke mingling with the scent of pine. Maybe it's imagination. Maybe it's gratitude. The valley sleeps easier now. People lock their doors a little tighter, watch out for their elderly neighbors, trust their instincts when someone's story feels too smooth. And every time I get a message from someone who says, "Your story helped me stop a scammer," I realize Harold's death still saves lives. Rosemary says redemption always leaves fingerprints, you just have to look for them in the right light. She's right. They're everywhere here. In the rebuilt porch, the laughter echoing down the trail, the quiet hum of a community reborn. This morning, I stood where it all began, at the edge of the driveway where Brenda first told me to look up the law. The gravel crunched under my boots, the same sound I'd heard that day, but now it meant something different. Back then, it was the sound of disbelief. Now, it's the sound of peace. I took a deep breath, tasting that clean mountain air. For the first time, it didn't taste like rage or revenge. It tasted like justice. I looked out across the valley and smiled. "We did it, Harold," I said quietly. "We took your house back." Then, turning toward the camera I'd set on the porch rail, I pressed record. "Hey everyone," I said. "Jake here. You might know me as the guy whose foreclosed cabin turned into a murder investigation. But this story isn't just about revenge, it's about rebuilding. If you're dealing with squatters, scammers, or any kind of predator, don't give up. Fight smart. Document everything. Get help. And remember, good people, united, can beat any evil." I smiled. Drop a comment below with your story. Hit that subscribe button if you want to hear how justice really works in the real world. And remember, mountain air always smells cleaner after a storm. I ended the recording and leaned back in my chair. The last light of the day painted the cabin gold. Somewhere down the road, life was still messy and unfair, but up here, it felt balanced, honest, and for the first time in a long time, I didn't feel like a man rebuilding his life. I felt like a man who'd finally finished the job.